I'm fact-checking myself because we do this show without a teleprompter. I don't know if I should be embarrassed or if I should be proud of that fact. Deuteronomy chapter 17. This is talking about the rules for the king, okay? Now it shall come about when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself a copy of this law on a scroll in the presence of the Levitical priests. It shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by carefully observing all the words of this law and these statutes. That's Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 18 and 19. So he didn't write a copy every year. He was to read it all the days of his life. He was to write one copy in the presence of the priests. They're checking his work. He doesn't get to say, oh yeah, guys, I'll do it tonight. I'm good. You go ahead, relax. And then he calls one of his brothers or his servants, hey, come here, write this out for me. No. He is required by God to write a copy of the 5 books of the law. Do you know how long that would take? In the presence of the Levites. All right, it's your shift. You got to go watch the king for the next 2 hours. His penmanship is just go and do your job. So that he may know to observe all the statutes, all the laws, so that he will keep them. All right, let's bring this all the way around. The primary purpose of law, according to Romans chapter 13, is to punish evildoers. All right? Paul wrote, I believe to Timothy, he said, the law is not for the just, but for the unjust. It's for the murderers of mothers and the murderers of fathers. You have law to punish evildoers, but you also have it to suppress evil deeds through fear of punishment. All right? Many people don't commit crimes, not because they don't want to commit the crime, but because they're afraid of the punishment that they will pay. So, if you look at the scriptures, what the king was required to write with his own hand, you'll see that the primary purpose of the law as regarding criminal prosecution was negative. Meaning, if you do this, you get punished. There were few, if any, I'm trying to strain my brain here, of negative positive punishments. In other words, they were required to leave the gleanings of their fields so that the poor of the land might eat. So if you had a successful farm, you were required to leave the edges of your field for the poor to come and to take the food. And they were not stealing. This was God's welfare system. You were also required to allow people to walk into your field of standing grain. All right, now remember, you're a farmer, you've got a beautiful, you follow me, you're still with me? You've got a huge grain field, and you were required to let the poor walk into the field and to grab the grains and to rub them between their hands and to eat them. And they could eat everything that they could stomach, they could eat standing in your field. And it's not theft. They couldn't take anything out, but they could go in and eat. I used to watch when I read the scriptures, the gospel, where it says that Jesus and his apostles were going on the Sabbath day through a grain field and they were eating. And then the Pharisees were saying, why is it that your disciples do that which is not lawful? They're picking, wheat on the Sabbath day. And I used to think, they're stealing someone's grain. Forget about the Sabbath. They're in someone else's field. And they're taking the guy's grain. That was before I studied the law of Moses. In the law, they were allowed, under the law rather, they were allowed to go in and take someone's grain and to eat it. All right? Couldn't steal anything else. And then they were to leave, the farmer was to leave the gleaning around the field. The gleanings are just a little bit so that people could come and that they could harvest, that they could take home. Guess what the punishment was if you refused to allow someone to come into your field to eat standing grain, or if you cut the gleanings and you said, I'm not leaving gleanings for the poor? Guess what your punishment was? This is scary. I'll be right back.